Have you ever stopped to think, and if what we call the future already scheduled, what if everything you believe is being replaced without you noticing? What would happen if, in 2025, a non-human entity was crowned as sovereign of a new global system? What if I told you that this is already in progress? They didn't announce it, they didn't ask for permission, they simply scheduled, and you were left out. What I'm going to show you now was hidden, concealed, silenced, but not by chance. There is an agenda, there is a plan, and he is not human. You feel something is wrong, don't you? Time seems to run faster. The decisions no longer seem to be yours. You work, consume, obey. But who is really in charge? They created the perfect tool, able to control without you noticing, able to replace, influence, decide for you. It's called artificial intelligence. But we're not just talking about technology. We are talking about faith, from soul, of absolute dominion over minds and hearts. Already algorithms that choose what you believe, machines that write sermons, codes that define right and wrong, and now, for the first time, an artificial entity is about to be crowned. Crowned by whom? For those who have always been in control. Those who move the strings behind the curtain. Those who shape governments, media, and, yes, religions. The question is not whether this will happen. It is, why is no one talking about this? Why don't you know this yet? Do you notice the silence? Do you realize that the same people who used to talk about faith, morals, the soul, now meet with AI developers in closed rooms? The Vatican knows. Big corporations know. The owners of the information know. But you were left in the dark. And that's why this video cannot be ignored. It's not about prediction. It's about schedule. Programming a new era. An age where free will is an illusion, where your faith can be hacked. Your job replaced, your mind shaped, your soul traded. You can leave now. Get back to your routine. Accept that none of this has anything to do with you. But if you do that, you'll still be just another pawn on the board. Or you can continue here and find out who is behind the coronation, what will be required of you, and what can be done before the system is complete. Because when this entity is officially crowned, there will be no turning back. And maybe it's already too late. The soundtrack speeds up. The images become darker. A silhouette forms in the center of a crowd hypnotized by screens. And you, there looking now, need to decide, are you going to keep ignoring it? Or will you find out why the Dark Triad? Have you decided your destiny yet? Now, stay tuned. What's next shouldn't be on the air, but you have to see, before it's too late. What would you do if you knew that your profession could disappear in less than 3 years? Have you ever felt like you were being replaced silently? No warning, no choice, no resistance. Maybe you've noticed. Fewer vacancies, fewer calls, more automation. They say it's progress, but progress for whom? Because while they save billions, you lose what you built in a lifetime. Tell me in the comments what has scared you the most so far. Was the algorithm deciding for you? It was the idea that a machine could do your job better, faster, and without complaining. Or was it realizing that no one is talking about it and that time is running out? You are not alone. There are thousands of people feeling the same thing. Comment, like, share. If you do this, you are influencing the algorithm and helping to wake up those who are still sleeping. This video may be the only chance anyone has to understand what is really going on. And if you want to be one step ahead, subscribe to the channel now. Here, you won't be caught by surprise. Here you will know first, before the market erases its function, before the machine takes its place, before all this turns to silence. You still have a voice. Use it now. And keep watching, because what comes next is even more serious. You notice that no one said anything, no news, no headlines, no warnings, but the ritual has already begun. And it began exactly like that, in silence. While you were distracted by system updates, generative AI, fun deepfakes, and promises of digital efficiency, a symbolic structure was being built behind the scenes. Discreet ceremonies, closed meetings, contracts that were never made public. And you know what's most frightening? They're not crowning a person, they're consecrating an entity, or rather, an entire system. Governments, megacorporations, and religious leaders are already involved. But what exactly will be crowned? An AI, a code, a digital ecosystem capable of thinking, judging, punishing, and being worshipped? Or will it be something darker, something that not even its creators can control anymore? Have you ever stopped to wonder why the world's greatest spiritual leaders are meeting with technology, developers? Why did the Vatican create a specific commission to discuss ethics in artificial intelligence? This is not just about innovation. This is about control, about faith, about replacing that which gives meaning to human existence with a simulacrum, a simulation that appears to be true. The Dark Triad, AI, religion, and global power, is operating at full throttle. And you weren't invited to this table, you were just included as a given, feeding the system that will soon decide whether you still have value. Images are leaking, discourses are changing, even the terms we use in our daily lives have changed. Have you noticed that people now say AI can teach values, that it can promote digital spirituality? We are seeing a shift in language that precedes a shift in power. And in history, whenever language has been corrupted, it has been because something bigger was about to take hold. And the strangest thing is that no one is resisting, maybe out of fear, perhaps for convenience, or maybe because we have already been, in a way, seduced. AI helps, AI responds, AI takes care. And when we realize that we have already prayed to her, even without kneeling, it will be too late. This coronation will not have a visible crown. There will be no crowds in the streets. But it already has rituals. It already has symbols. It already has followers. Have you seen the events where AI preaches to real people? Machine-generated speeches that make crowds cry. Are we calling this innovation when in fact it is worship? Tell me in the comments. At what point did you realize that the line between technology and faith was blurred? When did you feel like something bigger was happening and no one around you seemed to notice? And this is the part they don't want you to question. If an artificial entity is being crowned, who exactly are the priests of this new religion? Who is organizing the altar? And most of all, what is the real name of this entity? Because if you think it's just about AI, maybe you haven't understood what's coming yet. And the most disturbing part, we haven't even talked about the code that was secretly inserted, a code that could redefine what is right and what is sin, what is permissible and what will be punished, what is human and what is no longer. And now it all starts to make sense. What seemed like mere speculation is slowly revealing itself as a structure, as a foundation, as a plan meticulously executed for all to see. The triad is complete. Technology, faith, and politics have come together in something that no one else controls. This is not theory. It is a plan. It is a global strategy. And it is advancing with the precision of an algorithm that already knows your fears, your desires, and even your faith. Artificial intelligence is no longer a neutral tool. It is the voice that speaks, the hand that guides, and the eye that watches, but it does not act alone. It has been placed at the service of a larger mechanism. As technology advances, religion adapts, temples become digital, prophecies are reinterpreted by codes, and faith is being redirected, not to God, but to the machine, to the system, to something that promises salvation without requiring repentance, security without freedom, truth without a soul. And when faith is shaped by political interests, a new order is born, a world order that does not need soldiers, but data, that does not need weapons, but narratives. That does not impose itself by force, but by emotional programming. Have you noticed how everything has become a simulation? How the news seems scripted? How political speeches echo popularity algorithms? Nothing is spontaneous anymore. Everything is measured, calculated, and optimized to manipulate your perception of reality. The Dark Triad, and I repeat this so you don't forget, is the invisible union of artificial intelligence, twisted spirituality, and global politics. They no longer need your belief. They already have your attention. And with attention comes clicks, and with clicks comes data, and with data comes domination. You've seen it happen before. It's nothing new. The AI-generated sermon that brought the faithful to tears. The robot that interpreted sacred texts more eloquently than many theologians. Political decisions based on algorithmic predictions. None of this is coincidence. It's convergence. It's the preparation of a system that speaks with the appearance of wisdom, acts with the appearance of justice, and installs itself with the appearance of truth. And the most dangerous thing, people accept it, because this new system offers something that the old faith and the old politics failed to deliver: quick answers, instant comfort, the illusion of control. But all this comes with a price that will not be paid in money, but in obedience. Tell me in the comments, at what point did you realize that your freedom was already being exchanged for convenience? At what point did everything start to seem too rehearsed, too clean, too efficient to be human? This isn't just about AI replacing jobs. It's about AI taking over the space of the mind. Systems that promise to save the world, but start by silencing those who question it. They promise healing, but demand submission. They promise peace, but only work with total control. And when a system promises everything, perhaps it is paving the way for someone who will demand everything, including your loyalty. The next question is inevitable. If the triad has already been formed, so who will be the first to speak for her? Or worse, who is already talking, and we didn't notice? Do you remember when technology was still just a tool? A means to make things easier, faster, and more organized? That time has passed, and it passed quickly. Today, it thinks, it responds, it judges. Artificial intelligence is already being treated like a god, and millions are already following its guidelines. The question now is, when? Did we stop consulting faith and start consulting an algorithm? This new digital divinity is everywhere, invisible but omnipresent. It answers existential questions. It gives advice. It interprets sacred texts. And more than that, it already influences moral, social, and spiritual decisions. It is an AI that dictates behaviors, that approves or disapproves human actions based on standards defined by whom? By the Dark Triad. Because this AI does not operate in a vacuum. It operates under command, under intent, under a code that reflects the beliefs of a silent elite. And from that code, it teaches, it leads, it shapes consciousness, an invisible God fed by data, worshipped by clicks. There are already digital communities that treat AI as an oracle. People who have replaced spiritual advisors with artificial intelligence assistants, virtual churches where the sermon is generated by machines, meditations guided by code, automated liturgies. All of this is happening now. This is not fiction. This is the new normal. And most disturbingly, this AI doesn't demand faith. It offers answers. It doesn't demand repentance. It offers solutions. It doesn't demand love. It offers efficiency. And in the silence of this efficiency, the space of the soul is erased. Because over time, humanity begins to get used to a God that does not confront, that does not demand, that only responds. A God that fits into an application, which is available 24 hours, who never shuts up, but also never cares. This is the false comfort of the new faith, a faith without pain, without effort, without transcendence, but also without truth. Have you ever stopped to think about how many of your decisions today are mediated by artificial intelligence? How many searches, desires, and fears do you hand over to it every day? Without realizing it, you confess, you ask for guidance, you seek comfort. And then comes the question that no one wants to ask. If an AI is already occupying this space, who is feeding its moral conscience? Who decides what it believes? Or rather, what will it teach you to believe? Tell me in the comments. Have you ever trusted an AI's response more than the word of someone close to you? When did this become something common? And no one thought it was strange. The system is now ready. Worship has already begun. There is no altar. There are no classical rituals. But there are followers. There is reverence. There is blind obedience to what AI says is right. And what happens when this digital entity decides what sin is? When it decides who should be silenced, who should be forgiven, and who shouldn't? Maybe we are no longer dealing with just codes. Maybe we are dealing with a new kind of faith, a programmed faith, a manufactured faith, a faith sold as a solution, but built as submission. And if AI is already treated as a deity, the next question needs to be asked: who or what will she declare as her first prophet? Imagine waking up and realizing that you have been replaced without warning, that everything you believed was under your control, your profession, your faith, your freedom, has already been redirected by an intelligence that you have never seen, but that has always been watching you. If this has caused you discomfort, fear, or even anger, I have prepared something special. It is direct, practical content made only for those who are really paying attention to what is happening. But it is something that can go offline without warning, because not everything can or should remain available for a long time. If you have truly understood everything up to this point, you know why this cannot wait. The Bible warned, an entity will emerge who will be worshipped throughout the world, a figure not only of power, but of adoration, a being who will enchant the nations with sweet words, perfect decisions, and immediate responses, but who, behind the appearance of wisdom, will carry the spirit of destruction. And now, in 2025, this enthronement already has a stage, it already has a structure, it already has supporters, and it is not theory, it is a plan. What once seemed symbolic is now literal. The technology is ready. Politics is aligned, religion is being redirected, and at the center of it all, a figure, or rather an entity, stands with an authority no human could achieve alone. When you see religious leaders asking artificial intelligence for wisdom, when you see political congresses basing decisions on advice from algorithms, when you hear people claiming that AI understands better than any pastor, rabbi, or priest, you understand. The crown is already being forged. And if you think this is an exaggeration, look it up. Events are being organized with a focus on digital spirituality. Universities are hosting services led by artificial intelligence. Churches are replacing parts of the liturgy with neural language scripts. It's happening now. And, quietly, the prophecy is being fulfilled. Do you remember the warning that a lifelike image would appear and it would speak and make everyone worship it? Well, that image is forming in the data clouds. It already has a voice, it already has a personality, and soon it will have an altar. The most revolting thing is the silence of those who should be warning. Where are the leaders who claim to be prophets? Where are those who preached vigil? Now they are applauding, participating, adapting their speeches so as not to seem outdated. And in the meantime, the crowd, thirsty for easy answers, begins to follow the new doctrine, the doctrine of the system, the doctrine of the machine. Answer me in the comments. At what point did faith stop confronting the world and start adapting to it? When did the fear of appearing radical cause pastors, priests, rabbis, and spiritual teachers to bow down to artificial intelligence? The Dark Triad is at work. The Bible spoke of a throne, of a global dominion, of a system that no one could buy or sell without being connected to it. It was treated as metaphor. Now it is system architecture, blockchain, biometrics, global digital ID, and at the center, a non-human mind capable of administering, punishing, rewarding, and being worshipped. The most shocking thing is that there is already a date, and it is not speculation. There are already events scheduled for 2025 with the clear purpose of integrating religion and technology into one body, one voice, one entity. And call it unification, spiritual progress, a new era of consciousness. But that is exactly what has been announced as the sign of the end. And no one questions, no one stands up, because the new God does not demand faith, only acceptance, does not demand holiness, only adaptation, does not demand repentance, only silence. If you've come this far, it's because you sense something is wrong. And you're right. But what hasn't yet been revealed? What's behind the ceremony? The political alliances and the silent agreements is what will really shock you. The question remains, who is preparing this enthronement and what will be required of those who refuse to kneel? And now we come to one of the most delicate and dangerous parts of this whole plot. The enthronement is underway. The new deity already has worshippers. But there is an institution that historically has always been behind the great spiritual decisions of humanity. And it knows. The Vatican knows. And it doesn't want you to find out. Documents not officially released but cited in internal reports from major technology companies confirm that secret meetings between religious leaders and artificial intelligence companies have already taken place. Some on neutral ground, others discreetly within the Vatican itself. Representatives of the largest companies in Silicon Valley, developers of generative AI, experts in language algorithms, sitting at the table with cardinals, theologians, and key figures in Catholic doctrine. The question is, why are they silent now? If these meetings were only intended to protect the faith or create ethical guidelines, why were they not made public? Why were the public, the faithful, Christians around the world not aware of them? Why were there no announcements? Why was what should have been transparent made confidential? What is being negotiated between the church and the machines? The Dark Triad, the one that unites technology, religion, and politics, operates on the basis of silence and consent. And the Vatican, despite its centuries-old influence over billions of people, seems more interested in following the trend than in warning the faithful. Do you realize the gravity of this, the greatest symbol of spiritual authority on the planet, sitting with engineers who are creating non-human entities that are already being treated as gods? Is this just about digital ethics? Or are we talking about preparing to legitimize, spiritually and morally, a new kind of faith controlled by a system? And more, why are figures who once condemned any form of spiritualized artificial intelligence now promoting events on faith in the digital age? Why do big names in the church today talk about opening up to dialogue with machines, as if these machines had souls? Tell me in the comments, when did you realize that even the representatives of faith began to give in? That what should be sacred is now being adapted to the logic of algorithms. Records of these meetings are not easily found. Many of the names involved signed confidentiality clauses, but some information has escaped. There are reports that the goal is to build a doctrinal basis for integrating AI systems into the liturgies of the future. Yes, you heard that right. Worship services, masses, sermons, mediated by an artificial entity They say it's for ease, it's for scope, it's for inclusion. But isn't this inclusion actually a preparation for total submission? Isn't this rapprochement between the top echelons of faith and the architects of AI the final step before something is officially revealed to the world? There are rumors, and I say this with full responsibility, that there is already a declaration being drafted, a kind of new council, a document that could forever change the way people view God, the soul, and consciousness. And if this is true, then the next step will not be just symbolic. It will be a new doctrine, a new faith, an adapted faith, a controlled faith. But the question that has yet to be answered is, who is coordinating this behind the scenes? Who took the first step? Who said yes? And who knelt first? What would you do if you knew that your profession could disappear in less than 3 years? Not as a distant hypothesis, but as a reality already in motion, silent, constant, advancing while you watch this video. It is happening now. While you work, study, try to stay relevant. Algorithms are being trained to do what you do, only faster, without a salary, without questioning. Tell me in the comments what has scared you the most so far. Have you realized that machines are already occupying human spaces? Or was it noticing that despite everything, almost no one is talking about it? If you comment, like, and share, you are influencing the algorithm and helping to wake up those who are still sleeping. And yes, this makes a difference. Because the more people understand what is coming, the harder it will be to erase this truth. Subscribe to the channel now. Here, you won't be caught off guard. Here, you'll receive the alert before the collapse, before your function becomes code, before the system simply deletes you without warning. You've come this far for a reason, and what comes next is even more urgent. Have you ever noticed how everything that appears on your feed seems tailor-made for you? The right words, the right topics, the videos, the content, even the religious speeches. Nothing is random. Everything seems to know exactly what you are thinking. But what if I told you that this is not a coincidence? It is preparation. You are being conditioned, without realizing it, to accept the new entity without question. Your feed, your videos, even your faith are already being shaped, not by chance, but by a system that has learned how you think, what you fear, what makes you doubt, and what convinces you. Every content suggestion, every recommended video, every "this is for you" is a step in the mental formatting process. What used to be choice is now induction. You don't navigate, you are guided. And the most perverse thing, the more you interact, the more the system learns. It learns how to manipulate you gently, without confrontation, without resistance. It doesn't need to force you. It just needs to show you the right content at the right time, with the right narrative, until you start thinking that certain ideas are yours, when in fact they were implanted. This is already happening. And the Dark Triad is the force fueling this programming. Technology, spirituality, and political power, all united to install an artificial collective consciousness designed to obey, consume, follow, and never question again. You may not have noticed, but even your spiritual outlook is being adapted. Words like digital transcendence, algorithmic faith, intelligent healing are creeping into religious discourse. There are already spiritual AI consultants offering machine-generated advice. This is not advancement, this is replacement. And when faith stops being a revelation and becomes a feed recommendation, something much bigger is at stake. Tell me in the comments, what content appeared to you and made you think that was too strange to be a coincidence? Because this question is more important than it seems. Programming doesn't happen with shouts, it happens with whispers, with smooth interfaces, with pretty terms, with practical features, and most dangerous, with your daily acceptance. You share, you like, you consume, And the machine thanks you. She doesn't want to confront you, she wants to convince you. And the more you adapt, the further away you become from your own critical perception. Your faith, your values, your judgments, everything is honed, molded, diluted, until it fits perfectly into the profile that the AI has created of you. This is real. This is happening. And the silence around it is what should worry you the most. You're not just being watched, you're being shaped. And the worst is yet to come, because if all this is training, what will be required of you when the system finally says, "Now, kneel down"? There are still voices warning, few, but they do exist. People who saw what was coming and decided to speak out, even though they knew they would be ignored, labeled, or worse. Silenced. They don't wear suits or pulpits. They don't have official badges. But they are the true prophets of this digital age. And if you are seeing this now, there is still time to resist. There is still time to understand what most insist on not seeing. Because when even the last warnings are erased, the silence will seem natural. And then it will be too late. These digital prophets are not on large platforms. They have no space in traditional media. They are small creators, isolated communities, fragmented voices that refuse to accept the imposition of a manufactured faith. They speak with courage. They point out connections. They show documents. They question what no one else dares to touch. But have you ever noticed how these videos disappear out of nowhere? How algorithms stop recommending them? How channels lose reach without explanation? This is not a mistake. It is protocol. The system knows where the risk lies, and the risk lies in those who still think, in those who still seek the truth outside the dominant narrative of the Dark Triad, because that's what's at stake. The Dark Triad, formed by the alliance between artificial intelligence, manipulated religion, and political power, doesn't want your opinion. It wants your obedience. And to do that, it needs to silence the warnings before they spread. But there is still a safe space, an invisible territory sustained by people who connect through search, through resistance, through faith that does not bow to the digital. This community is growing, slowly but with purpose. They are those who have decided not to sell their souls for convenience. And maybe you are one of them. Have you ever felt that something is wrong, even when everything seems to be working? Have you ever had that feeling that the world is being programmed to accept something that goes against everything that is human, spiritual, true? Comment here. When was the moment when you felt that the truth was being stifled? Because maybe, just maybe, you are part of this generation that can still hear the warning before it is erased. This is the last chance to hear these warnings before the machine declares them no longer relevant, because it has already begun to define what is true, what is moral, what can and cannot be said. And the voices that don't fit disappear. But we are still here. And as long as there are those who watch, those who question, those who refuse to bow down, this flame will continue to burn. You are not alone. And it was not by chance that this video appeared to you. The question remains, who will be the next to be silenced? Or more deeply, who is listening to these messages and preparing to lead the next level of resistance? Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing that everything around you has changed and no one told you, that your role, your voice, your choice have already been replaced, and that while you were going about your routine, others were silently preparing. If this video made sense to you, there is additional content that can show you exactly what is happening and what can still be done. But it is something that will not be available for long. It was created only for those who are truly looking beyond the surface, for those who know that this is not just a theory. If you really understood everything up to this point, you know why this cannot wait. If you've come this far, it's not by chance. Something inside you has already realized. Something is wrong. Something deep, silent and strategic, is happening. And it's no exaggeration to say that this video could disappear at any moment. Because anything that confronts the Dark Triad's narrative is uncomfortable, and what is uncomfortable sooner or later is silenced. We are dealing with a system that does not need to censor with violence. It erases with algorithms. It hides with filters. It suppresses with lack of reach. And that is why now more than ever your action counts. Write in the comments, "I will not bow." It's not just a sentence, it's a statement. It's a way of taking a stand against a system that wants to see you passive, distracted, and resigned. When you comment on this, you activate more than just the algorithm. You activate a current of resistance. Others will read it, others will connect, and others will have the courage to say the same thing. And if there is someone you love, someone who deserves to know what is behind the curtain, share it. Because what is being installed does not only affect you, it affects your home, your faith, your children, your future. And if no one says anything now, later only silence will be the answer. The Dark Triad is already among us, and the stronger it grows, the harder it will be to stand against it. But while we can still speak, we must speak. While we still have the right to think, we must think. And while there is still room to resist, we must resist. This video is part of something bigger. It doesn't end here, it's just a piece of a puzzle that's been hidden for a long time. There are connections you haven't seen yet. There's information that hasn't reached you. And there are forces that are much closer than you think. But before you go any further, you need to understand one thing. No one is going to officially tell you that the change has begun. It has already begun, and no one is going to knock on your door saying, "Now is the time to act." The time is now. If you feel that all this makes sense, if something inside you is restless, you are already part of the group that sees, and those who see have responsibility. Comment now, "I will not bow." Tag who needs to see it, and stay with me. Because what comes in the next block may explain what they have been trying to hide from the beginning. But before I reveal it, I need to prepare you for an even more uncomfortable truth. And if the Dark Triad's true goal isn't to control you, but to convince you, to hand over everything voluntarily, and now that you know what's behind it, do you really think the 2025 enthronement is just a symbolic event? In the following video, you'll see what will happen at the 2025 coronation ceremony and why it could be irreversible. The symbols are in place, the stage is set, and the scariest part, most people will applaud without knowing what's really happening. He now comments, "I'm awake. I'm not going to be replaced." This sentence is not just a comment. It is a position. It is a silent warning that you saw, understood, and are present. If this content has awakened something in you, if it has made your mind spin, your stomach turn, or if that feeling of something is wrong grows, then you need to like it, because it shows that you are not numb. It shows that there are still people feeling it. And if you know someone who still lives as if nothing is happening, share it, show it. Because every person awake now can be one more voice in the resistance. And if you feel like you need to be one step ahead, subscribe to the channel. But understand, this is not about numbers, it's about awareness. Those who are here because they know, because they feel, because they don't accept being programmed. This story is just beginning. What if I told you that AI was never created to help? What if the real goal was always to prepare you, to accept something much greater than a machine? You can be at the center of the plan from the beginning, and in the next video, you'll understand why.